All right, Generations recap. Uh, Man, I was hyping this session up in the chat, and I have like literally 4 lines of notes for the session. But that doesn't mean it wasn't an amazing and awesome session, and a lot happened. It was just I didn't take notes because it was very like I think Sean said the same thing of like when you're in that heat of the moment battle, like you kind of you don't take the same notes and more enjoy the moment of it. But when you're like in the more environmental areas, you try to take better notes. But yeah, I don't take better notes either way. But like this definitely it's like kind of like I said, cue up the Final Fantasy battle music, because I finished my last session where I'm surrounded by, or I'm kind of like teetering in the middle of this like light and dark, black flames and healing kind of thing, and I see like blackness all around me, and it's like I kind of like snapped out of that last state I was in, but I'm whatever I'm in, I'm still like in a more we'll call it meditative, psychic, something like that state. I do a spin around me, and it appears that there is a path to an operating room, and it's like, well, it's the only place to go, and it feels like one of those things where it's like it feels like a dream state, but it also feels like one of those dream states with very real implications and like possible like terrible outcomes. Like it's a feeling that I've established from some of those movies where it's like if you die in the movie, you die in the game kind of thing. So it's like the same kind of thing here. Is like the stakes are very high. This isn't just a dream that you need to like get your way through. Um, and I see myself on the operating table, and I experience what's going on with my body. Beyond so like there's the random there's the random hop around thing that's going on where it's like all this stuff in my body is happening, and it'll be like I'll have like muscle degradation, and then that'll just randomly transfer into like a heart murmur, and then that'll just randomly transfer into uh, like like cancer cells growing and stuff like that. And it's like as my bodies will go to heal them, or like kind of fight or combat, like it'll just go to the next area and start messing things up. So it's like it feels like I'm kind of one step behind all of this. And it's just like the kind of the randomness of it makes it very difficult, because if it was like when you go to treat it or something like that, like it just jumps around and starts wrecking something else, and it makes it very, very challenging. Beyond that, it feels like I'm in a very bad state. Like I'm kind of at the end of a losing battle. And it's explained to me that like my neurological system, which would be like my brain and my nerves and everything like that, is like being occupied is a way to put it. And it's like it would be like the equivalent of like your home base. Like it's your brain, your mind, all that kind of stuff is probably one of the most important things, because like if you're and it's like the it feels like the brain is being starved out, like it's being like killed, which is terrible. So that was like after a quick diagnosis, I did that, and I was like, okay, DM. Well, I start to like try to heal. I start to try to like address the issues in the neurological system that I have going, and so I start doing that, and it does start making progress. And then what ends up happening is this is kind of like where the game spawns, slash battle slash war. I realize that I've been putting like all of my focus into the brain, but the brain is basically starving at this point. Like it's not getting the things it needs to function. So it's like I'm trying to like remove the influence and like heal it and like address it, but it's also like I'm doing so much more and working against like a timer because it's doing that. So let me see here. Pull this up because this was like my little cheat sheet. Really, is it not open? Share it with me. Stand by, stand by. It should be pretty close. I just opened it. I should have opened this before. Sorry. And I don't have it on there right on. I always forget where I put this thing. Because this is actually important for the recap, and I don't feel like restarting. There it is. Need to copy this. So this is my cheat sheet. And what it does is it shows New Energy's potency at healing things, Quarry's energy potency at destroying things, and then like the Nui versus Quarry outcome, where it's like your so like the circulatory system, it's favored to Nui energy by 65%, which means like just like 65% of the time out of 100 times, Nui energy will be able to like overcome like the destruction of someone's circulatory system by Quarry energy, whereas like 99% of the time your reproductive system is done because Quarry energy will just ravage that. And anyway, this is where like the game of chess is set up, and I realize is once I start kind of like healing this or like kind of addressing my brain is I get almost what feels like an opponent. And that random stuff that's racking through my body becomes more focused as to prevent me from doing this. So what I kind of quickly realized is like I have to basically split my forces, which is my concentration, to work with this. And I was like, okay, well, DM, and this I did this first one before I opened the sheet because I was like, okay, well, the biggest thing the brain needs is blood, so we need to like go to the circulatory system, and then this is where I open it up, and I was like, and then we need respiratory, so we need the oxygenated blood to get to the brain. So I'm basically not like having a stroke. I was like digestive maybe if I need like more nutrients for my brain, but I'm pretty sure that should be filled for now. Like, well, that'll be like the backup thing if I need it. So what I ended up doing is like I ended up splitting like my thing like 70 20 10. It wasn't quite that, but I was like, okay. And then I didn't even look at to see how well I did it at first, and I was like, oh, like I actually kind of did it like because like it's like the higher the blue percentage, the less of your focus you might need to be able to take it back. And the DM explained much later at the end of the session like there was a home field advantage. And I was like, I was kind of winging it, but like also I was kind of playing with the hope that there might be some advantage because like there's some of those numbers that are just insurmountable, like to be able to split your focus to. So that was my first chess move, I guess you would call it, is I center my focus on like healing my um, nervous system, which Quarry Energy does have a slight advantage over Nuya gets. But I'm also like spending most of my energy, or overwhelming thing. The DM explained something like going less than like 65, 60%. I feel like would just be like actively detrimental to like the situation. Like it requires like a significant portion of focus. And I was like, well, let's give a little extra. And I was like, let's like launch our attack. So I try to like retake the circulatory system so I can get some blood pumping, and I try to like retake the respiratory system so I can so get some oxygenated blood to my brain. And that's going well. It's actually better than I had hoped. And what it does is, oh, excuse me, the pollen must be bad because I have my window open here and I can just feel it. So the thing basically shifts its counter move, and its counter move is to go into my skeletal system, my reproductive system, and I think like my renal system. And this is where like that high school biology stuff comes in, and yeah, like it has like some advantages there for sure. And it's like, okay, well, DM, here's the thing. Like, what it's basically doing is it's breaking down and destroying like these parts of my body. And I was like, well, sometimes you gotta sacrifice to get like the home base back up and running. And that's kind of what I did. I was like, well, skeletal system, and the DM and I kind of talked it out. It's like you're gonna like lose bone density, like you're gonna like maybe like red. And I was like going through the things like skeletal system known for is like your red blood cell counts going down. The DM was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense for like what could be going on. And I was like, reproductive, it's like, listen, you can live without that. Unfortunately, I was like, there might not be any little castes running around for a while, but like this is life or death. Like we're at the I forget what the word would be, but we're at the precipice or something like that of the bridge between life and death, and like we're leaning more towards death still. So we're not even in the we're definitely gonna live portion. Like we're just trying to like stabilize so we don't die, and and same with renal is like my body can handle like some toxins for now. Um, like kind of like not having them filled out in your kidneys and all the other stuff. Uh, and I was like, okay, so they're like we're like moving that fight and like the next step is occurring, and it's like degrading like these systems in my body while I'm like retaking these other ones because like when I got in there, it basically had control over whatever it wanted, and I was like, okay, right on, and I managed to get my brain, my circular, my nervous system up and running, or get like kind of like retake that home base kind of thing, and then from there it feels like okay, I can kind of make my next move, and I was like, okay, well I strengthened that up, and I think it realizes that like the my opponent is like it's on the losing end, like it kind of lost that advantage of chaos and getting kicked out of my home base, and it didn't like that. So the DM was like, it feels like it moves. It feels like it kind of pulled itself from the other systems that it was like hurting and destroying, and like centered itself in the endocrine system. And this is where I kind of made that analogy in the chat, where it's like I was playing a game of like Civilization, like I don't know if you guys ever played that, or like Risk or something like that, where it's like you're splitting your forces up, like you're trying to make sure that that you kind of like push your expansion outward. But the problem is like I'm not familiar. I don't know like if I can be backdoored, if my opponent knows feints or anything like that. Like and I don't understand the rules of the game completely. I just have a general idea, and the things that I'm using. Um, like these like war analogies and everything like that, it's an attempt to rationalize the situation, but in doing so I also made assumptions to the rules of the game that aren't necessarily true. So my opponent gathers in my endocrine system, and my response to it is that I start to pull my forces to kind of ready the assault, but I don't actually make the assault because Cass as a individual is still viewing this as kind of like a war game, and he's not familiar with like the latency that occurs, or if there isn't any. And when it turns out that there isn't any, like there isn't that like kind of like moving forces around kind of thing. But like I didn't like the DM was like I don't want you to think that like the these war analogies are like entirely accurate. And I was like, no, it's okay because it gave Cass like a rationalization point for how it works, and it also gave him a set of rules for a game he didn't understand. Um, but even if those rules were wrong, like I don't think that I didn't think that was on the DM. I thought that is like that's like just kind of a chance Cast took by buying into the rationalization that he created out of the situation. 1 second. Well, this is going to be a little shorter than I had hoped. Uh, this is my folks just got home with some product I got to go unload. Uh, yeah, so we actually yeah. Let me just pause it there. The first move and then the ender consistent, and I'll pick it back up.